Cruise through the games in the digital MegaZeux.net Gold Collection, and you'll quickly see that these games have a lot of originality. I mean, seriously, you'll find games of every genre here in MegaZeux. There are first-person shooters, puzzle games, procedurally generated roguelike platformers, comedy games, bullet hell shooters, RPGs, and classic platformers, and just about anything else you can imagine. So how exactly do you go from this to something a little more like this? It all begins by pressing F10 and choosing one of these two options here. Now, when you discover that you can write your own programs in your game for the first time, it's a little bit like Alice in Wonderland when she falls down the rabbit hole, because it really opens up a huge new world to you. Suddenly you can do tons of things in your game that you could never do without this ability. But learning to code is a little bit like learning to walk or learning to talk. It takes time to learn, and at first you're probably going to start off writing really simple programs that supplement pretty basic gameplay. And then as you learn and go along, you'll step up to bigger, more complicated things. Okay, so let's just start at the beginning. Press F10. You have two options, either a robot or a pushable robot. A standard robot cannot be pushed around by the player. It is solid. Unless it moves by itself, it will not move. And a pushable robot can be shoved around by the player like a rock, basically. So you're going to want to name your robot if there's going to be any sort of interaction with other robots. If a robot needs to address this robot in any way, it's got to be able to identify it, and that's why you need to give it a name. And any robot that has this name will also be addressed as well. So you select a character. And if you don't want the program to begin executing as soon as you enter the board, you're going to need to tell it to stop. Otherwise, it's just going to start executing code right away. I would say the simplest interaction that you can start with between the player character and a robot is the player touching the robot. So to do that, you need a label, and the label needs to be touch. And when you put in a colon and you type touch, and it'll put it in parentheses for you, or you can do it yourself, either way. So let's just start with a simple greeting. An asterisk will put a message at the bottom of the screen. You can type whatever you want. And you can choose to type end to stop the program, or you can just leave it blank and it will stop itself anyway. And there we have it. That's the first program. So we can do more complicated things than that too, of course. So a zap command will zap a label, and you want to specify the number of times in case you have multiple touch labels. You might want to zap more than one at a time. So in this case, I'm just going to zap the first touch label, and so as soon as this program begins executing, it's going to zap that touch label, and it will no longer function. So if I want to be able to touch the player, or if I want the player to be able to touch the robot again, it will jump to this next touch label the second time around. And this time, instead of putting an asterisk, I'm going to put a bracket here, and this will bring up a message box that shows this message. And when you have a message box open, simply pressing enter and leaving a blank line will create a space between one line and another. So here I'm going to put an ask command, and you need to precede the ask command by a question mark, and then you need to create a user-defined label. Since this is not a predetermined label and it's user-defined, you can name it whatever you want. So I'm going to call this label give, and the message that will appear on this line will be give me 5 ammo. So the program is asking the question, what do you want? And the player is choosing the option, give me 5 ammo. And I'll put another option in here. We'll call this ask. So the player can also ask, where do I go now? And the last one will be end, to simply get out of the interaction with the robot. And this turns blue because the program right now doesn't understand what you're meaning here. And the reason it doesn't understand this is because I didn't put this part of the program in parentheses. Now it understands that this is an ask command with a label and a message. And I need to put an end at the end here so that it doesn't continue executing command after this. Now I need to put in these labels here. And I put a space here just so that I can help myself identify that this is a different section than this up here. You don't have to have a space, but I find personally it helps me kind of sort out programs somewhat. So the command give 5 ammos will give the player 5 ammunition. And let's create a sound effect and a message to go along with that. That'll help make it sound a little nicer. So I'm going to go down here to, I pressed F1 to go into help. I'm going to go down to sound and music and scroll down to the sound effects table so that I can figure out which sound I want to play. So I'm going to play sound effect 3 for the give 5 ammo. And I'll have him give the message. There you go. And now we're going to do the ask label. And he's going to tell the player so that's just going to be a simple message. And end is the last one, and that just simply ends. So there's your 3 options. You can give the player 5 ammo, ask for directions, or do nothing. And I turned sound effects off for this, so you're not going to hear any. Okay. Now, as you get more proficient at programming, you'll find a lot of tricks, a lot of ways to make shortcuts. One simple shortcut would be, instead of having end be its own section like this, you could just simply say, you could put the end label here and then do away with this part. And that just saves a few lines of code is all. So what other kinds of interactions can we have? The shot label, the program will begin executing from the shot label anytime the robot is shot by the player, or I believe any other robot on the board or enemy on the board that can shoot it as well. So when he's shot, he's going to say, hey, ow. And then he's going to wait for 6 cycles, and he's going to shoot at the player. The direction seek means any direction that the player is in. So if the player is north, the robot is going to shoot north. If the player is northeast, the robot is going to decide to either shoot north or east, whatever it can do to get closest to the player. And let's play a sound effect with that too. I need to go, of course, back to the sound effects table again. So let's play sound effect 28 or shoot. Okay, it'd probably be nice to have a little bit more simulation of life coming from this fella, since he just sits here doing nothing. So let's go up here and let's create a little loop that has him moving around. I'm going to create a user-defined label here, and I'm going to call it top. That's one of my favorite labels to use for a main loop in a program. If a program runs a loop continuously and it's like the main part of the program, I always call the label top. That way I can remember that I always need to return to top when I'm done executing other parts of the program. So what I want to use is the command go random any for 1. No? Random. Okay, there we go. So this is going to tell the robot to move in a random direction for 1 cycle. And then I'm going to tell the command, or I'm going to tell the robot to return to the top of this loop and execute this command again. So it's just going to continuously walk around. Maybe I don't want him to walk super fast, so let's put in a wait here. That way he walks around a little bit slower, give the player a chance to catch up with him. There, he's just completely randomly walking around with no purpose, and he pushes the player because he's not checking if he's blocked in any direction. He's just always trying to move. Yeah, that made him stop. Now you notice he's no longer walking around, because after the touch command was the end command, so it continued, or it halted executing its program after I touched him. We can fix that by putting a go to top here. And that will, after the player touches him, he will return to the top and begin executing this program again. Now I don't need an end command here, because at this point it's going to stop executing program from this point on and jump back to the top. So you really don't need anything here, and it will just continue from this point. It won't keep going down. Oops. There. So I'm going to take out all of these ends and put go to top. You know a quicker way to do this? If you had a massive amount of stuff to change, say I wanted to change just a long line of ends to something else, I could type Control F, and this is the search and replace function. Here you can search for commands, or you can search for anything. You can search for any letter or number or string of letters and numbers that you want, and it will find them. See, this found the word end right here, and if you press Control R, it will automatically go to the next one in the program. Back to the top again. So I'm going to press Control F to open this again, and I want to replace end with go to top. Whoops. But I don't want to replace every instance of end with go to top. If I did want to do that, I could go replace all, and it would take every instance of the word end and replace it with the string of letters go to top. But that would also change this end here to go to top, and that would cause the program to stop working correctly because we need this end label here, and we need this end label here. So I want to change this end. So I press Control F and I say replace, and this replaces one instance of the word end. And I can come down here and I can replace this instance too. Whoops, I replaced that one. So if I go here, I will replace the very next instance of the word end, which would be this one right here, by pressing Control R for replace. Alright, so now the program will no longer halt. Now it will continue to cause the robot to walk around randomly. You see, he's a little hard to catch now. Even though I added some wait commands, he still is pretty wily. He gets around quite a bit. But I can't even shoot him. He probably moves too quick. There he goes. So let's try a better pattern than that. Okay, so I'm going to try and use the command walk . Okay, so this is going to tell the robot to walk any random direction in which he is not blocked. And I'm going to create a new label here, and I'm going to have the loop jump to this point here rather than jumping back to the top. And I'm going to change this command to go flow. Okay, flow means the direction that the robot is currently walking. So what it's going to do here, if I did this right, is it's going to choose a random direction in which the robot is not blocked, and it's going to continue to walk in that direction in this loop. And I'm going to slow him down a little bit more too. Let's say wait for 3. Let's see if this works. Yep. Wow, he still goes awfully fast, doesn't he? So now he's still trying to move in this direction. Even though he's blocked, he's just waiting until he's not blocked. So what if we changed go to try? There. Now this will tell the robot to try and move in the direction that he's currently walking, and if he can continue to do that, he will, and he'll continue to run through this loop. But if he can't continue to go in the direction that he's currently going, he will go back to this label here, top, and he'll choose a new direction to move in. Oops, I just erased him. There he's back. I'm going to replace the custom 4 that I erased. There we go. There we go. So you notice the program is still executing pretty fast, and that's because this command here, this flow command, or rather I think this walk command, doesn't rely on a loop to continuously move. I think you can set it to go and it will just continue to go without a looping command. Let's look that up real quick, see what it says about walk. Walk will cause the robot to move in one space in any given direction every cycle. So you have to use the direction idle to turn walking off. So yeah, he's going to continue to move one direction every cycle without a loop. One thing I could do to slow him down is I could change how quickly the robot executes cycles. Right now it's executing one command every cycle, and if I choose a slower cycle like cycle 4, it'll execute one command every 4 cycles. So that will make him walk one step every 4 cycles. Now he's walking at a much more relaxed pace, and he's even got pauses every time he changes direction because of the wait command. So now he's starting to look like he's a little bit more intelligent, although he still shoves me out of the way. Okay, let's try changing things up a little. This time when we shoot Bob, he is going to not only attempt to shoot back at the player, but he's going to chase the player around trying to shoot him multiple times. And we're going to achieve that by saying go seek one. So he's going to move in the direction of the player and shoot in the direction of the player. And I want him to do it more than once, so I'm going to create a loop here. And I'm just going to call this, I'm just going to use the command loop start, and I'm going to say loop for 10, and that is going to run through this loop 10 times. It's going to start here. This is the starting point for the loop, and this is where it returns to the top, and it's just going to do this 10 times. And this is a little bit different than the label and the go-to label loop, because it's going through it a set number of times and then it's done, and when it's done it jumps out of the loop and continues executing the program. Now when it does that, it's going to go back to the top. So Bob, when you shoot him, is going to get mad and come after me for a little bit, and then he's going to go back to doing what he was before after he's calmed down. First I got to give him to give me some ammo so I can shoot him. There we go. Alright, let's see if I can shoot Bob. I missed him. I managed to stay out of his way. Oh, I'm out of ammo. I tend to write programs in a very iterative fashion. What that means is I typically write something and then I get it working and then I add to it by making it more complicated. That's kind of what I've been doing here. I don't tend to write out my entire program all at once because for me it tends to not work out very well when I do that. I tend to have a lot of bugs and things like that. So I create a little bit at a time and test it and then I go on. So basically the program kind of evolves from something usually pretty simple in the beginning to something pretty complex at the end. And I just keep adding or iterating on it until it is what I want it to be. So far I don't have any animation for this robot walking around, but there's something else I can do to kind of give it a little bit more depth and change it up a little bit more. And that is when he gets shot and says, "Hey, ow," I'm going to change his color. And so when he gets shot, he's going to just turn red. And of course, when he's done being mad, I don't want him to stay red. So I'm going to have him change back to his normal color when he goes back to the top here. So you press F2 to bring up colors. So he's going to go back to his normal color when he's done executing this program down here. And of course, since he's already this color, when it goes through this program the first time, it's going to set the color to this color, but since he's already that color, you're not going to notice any effect. So basically this is just here for filler the first time around. That's only after he's shot that it actually does anything that noticeable. And I'm going to actually stop asking for Bob for ammo every time. I'm just going to put in a command, give 100 ammos. So that way, right away when I begin executing the game, it's going to automatically give me 100 ammo at the beginning. So I don't have to ask Bob for ammo every time anymore. And if you look here, I've got 100 ammo. Alright, let's add another robot here. That's a scroll sign, so we're not going to use that. Let's just create another robot off to the side here. We'll make it a pushable robot just for the heck of it. We'll make this something that Bob owns. Something that looks like a key. There we go. Okay. So die as an item is a special type of die, and I didn't explain dying yet either. If you use the command die, that causes the robot to disappear off the board and its program will stop executing as well. But if I say die as an item, it will have the additional effect of putting the player in the position of the robot. So it's as if the robot, or it's as if the player picked up the robot when it touched it, because it's going to die and then move the player over one. So it's going to look like he picked it up. But not before the key sends a message to Bob. And it's going to send Bob to the shot label. So Bob is going to get angry with you when you take his key, and he's going to start shooting at you. So there he is. Now he's mad at me and he's shooting at me. Of course, Bob also said ow, as if I had shot him when I didn't actually do that. So let's change that to... So we're going to create a new label in Bob called took key. And I'm going to come down here and put in that label. And I'm going to have him say a message. God, I have such horrible grammar. There we go. And now I'm going to tell the program to go to, I want it to go to the line right after he says, hey, ow. So I'm going to create another label here. I'll just call it shot 2. And I'm going to tell the program to go to the label shot 2. So when you take the key, he's going to bring up a message box that says, hey, that's my key, give it back. And then he's going to get mad and start shooting at you. Hey, that's my key, give it back. Alright, what else can we do? I thought of something else we can do. Let's set a counter. So a counter is a variable and it can store a value. So basically it's a way of storing a little bit of information about something changing in the game. So we're going to set Bob's key to 1. And so this is a way for the game to know that something changed. In this case, Bob's key was taken. So I'm setting the counter Bob's key to 1. And counters are, there are some built-in counters and then there are some user-defined. Well, any counter that's not built in is user-defined. This is not a built-in counter, so I defined this counter by naming it. Okay, so now when Bob's key gets taken, you will have a new option here with Bob, a new command. Okay, I'll tell you what this does in a moment. Okay, so this ask command is different than the other ask commands because it's got an extra word in parentheses here. And this first word in parentheses is the counter Bob's key. And then we have the label key and the message, here's your key back. Now this message, or this option to select this line will not appear in Bob's programming until Bob's key is set to something other than 0. And once it appears, then we'll have the option to give Bob back his key. I think we called it key. Yes, the label is key. So when you select this option, we'll set Bob's key back to 0. Bob will say, thank you very much, here. And Bob will give the player 20 gems. try this out. Okay, what do you want? And of course the option to give Bob his key does not appear because you don't have the key yet, and Bob's key is set to 0. Now I'm going to take his key and make him mad. And once he's done being mad at me, I can go talk to him and give him back his key. Here's your key back. Bob says, "Thank you very much, here." And he, as you can see, he gave me 20 gems. So I could go on for hours and hours and hours showing you new things you can do with Robotic, with programming, but it would be easier and better and more helpful for you if you just pressed F1 to open help and went to the command reference and began looking up these commands. There are more than 100 commands here. I don't know how many there are, but just start to look at them. Just scroll down the list, and if one looks interesting to you, press enter to see what it does and read about it. The help file has really good in-depth information about all the commands that you can use, and then it's got, of course, subsections related to those commands. And just start playing around and testing. You know, create a test game where you can just throw out ideas and try things, and the more you do it, the better you will get at it, and pretty soon you will be a proficient programmer. Another thing I would recommend you do to orient yourself with programming is to download other people's games and look at their robots and find out what they've done with their programs. You may not always understand it. If you go to a game that's really advanced, it's going to have very complicated programming that you're probably not going to understand the first time through. But if you find some games that are more simple and basic and stick to the kind of more MegaZeux formula, a lot of times you will be able to open those robots up and understand the programs fairly simply. Like this, you can just sort of scan through this program here and read and figure out how it works. You can even look up what these commands are if you don't understand them in the command reference to figure out what they're actually doing. And if you're not sure where robots are when you open up the game, because sometimes robots are disguised, sometimes they look like terrain, sometimes they just look like other objects, you can press Shift F2 and make all the robots on the board flash. That way you can easily spot them. See, there is a tree robot right here. And these boulders behind this robot are also robots themselves. So just experiment with other people's games and look around and read and figure stuff out. So this has been part 1 of programming in Robotic. This was just a very basic. I'll create another tutorial later on that goes a little more in depth. Thanks very much. Bye.